The story opens in a peaceful suburban neighborhood with birds chirping and the sun shining brightly over a row of modest houses. Sophie, a young woman in her mid-20s, is walking home from the local grocery store balancing paper bags filled with essentials. She's dressed simply but neatly, her eyes focused and calm, giving her an air of quiet determination. As she approaches her driveway, one of the bags tears, spilling Apple's loaf of bread and carton of eggs onto the pavement. Before she can pick them up, Jake, her wealthy neighbor, pulls into his driveway in sleek sports car. He steps out, dressed in designer clothes, sunglasses perched arrogantly on his face. Jake notices Sophie's predicament but doesn't offer to help. Instead, he smirks and says, "You should get better bags if you don't want this to happen, or maybe just shop smarter." His tone is condescending and his words sting, but Sophie doesn't react. She simply gathers her groceries and stands, meeting Jake's gaze with calm, unreadable expression. As Jake turns to leave, Sophie murmurs, "Enjoy your day," and tones so even it's almost unsettling. Jake doesn't respond, brushing off the encounter like an afterthought. The scene transitions to Jake's opulent home, where the focus shifts to his privileged, carefree life. His mansion gleams with luxury and he's surrounded by comfort, but there's an emptiness to his existence. Detail viewers are meant to notice as the story unfolds. This quiet moment of tension between Sophie and Jake sets the stage for much larger transformation. While Jake revels in his wealth, Sophie's unshakable poise hints at story yet to be revealed. As the day fades into evening, the contrast between their lives becomes increasingly clear. Sophie is seen stepping into her modest home, her groceries now neatly put away. She sits down with a cup of tea, her mind clearly focused on something far beyond her current circumstances. Inside his sprawling mansion, Jake lounges on an oversized leather couch in a room filled with the latest tech gadgets. His life seems perfect. Endless luxuries, freedom to do as he pleases, and no real responsibilities. The sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows highlights his meticulously decorated home, yet it feels oddly sterile. Jake spends his days indulging in meaningless activities, scrolling through his phone, ordering expensive takeout, and hosting shallow parties with equally entitled friends. His parents, successful entrepreneurs, are barely around, leaving him with unlimited access to their wealth but little guidance. In one scene, Jake tosses credit card onto the counter as delivery driver drops off food. The driver hesitates before leaving, his expression suggesting he's used to Jake's lack of acknowledgement. Jake, oblivious, grabs his meal and heads to the pool. Though surrounded by luxury, cracks in Jake's world start to show. Fleeting moment reveals his frustration when his phone buzzes with message from his parents, urging him to think about the future. He scoffs, muttering, "Why should I? Everything's already set." Later, Jake overhears his housekeeper quietly humming tune while cleaning. Something about her calm demeanor unnerves him, echoing Sophie's poised attitude earlier that day. Brief memory of her standing in the driveway flashes in his mind, but he quickly dismisses it, chalking it up to her being weird. As the evening winds down, Jake's phone rings. It's his father. The tone of the conversation changes the atmosphere completely. His father informs him that the family business has taken financial hit and that their funds are tightening. For the first time, Jake feels small pang of discomfort. His father's words linger. "We won't be able to cover everything for you anymore. You might need to start working." As the sun sets over the neighborhood, Sophie sits in her modest but tidy living room, a stack of business textbooks spread across the coffee table. The soft glow of a single lamp illuminates her focused expression as she takes notes, her pen moving methodically across the page. The quiet of determination fills the air. Her phone buzzes with a message from her manager at the diner reminding her of her shift in an hour. Sophie sighs but doesn't complain. She knows every late-night shift and every page she studies is a step closer to her goal. At the diner, Sophie moves efficiently, serving customers with calm demeanor. Regular patrons greet her warmly, while others gossip about the arrogant Jake. A pair of women at the counter chuckle about his flashy car and rude behavior. Sophie smiles faintly but says nothing, quietly clearing their plates. Between serving tables, Sophie sneaks glances at her notebook hidden under the counter, reviewing business strategies and market trends. Every free moment is spent working toward her dream. In her mind, she's already far beyond this diner, picturing herself in an office, running her own company. As Sophie clocks out, she pauses at the window, watching Jake's house in the distance. The neon lights from his pool reflect against the night sky, stark contrast to the dim street lights. Her expression is unreadable, but her eyes betray quiet resolve. This is the life she's leaving behind, step by step. What Jake doesn't see, what the neighborhood doesn't know, is how close she is to breakthrough. The once calm atmosphere of Jake's mansion is now charged with tension. The phone call with his father echoes in his mind as he paces around the house, anxiety creeping in for the first time. The luxurious surroundings that once gave him a sense of invincibility now feel oppressive. He stares at the stack of bills piling up on the kitchen counter, an unsettling reminder that his freewheeling lifestyle is about to collide with reality. Jake tries to ignore the growing pressure by throwing party, but the usual crowd of friends who once flocked to his side now hesitate to show up. One by one, they cancel plans, leaving Jake to stand alone by his pool, his smile now forced and hollow. Cold sense of unease settles in as he looks around at the empty spaces, the vastness of his wealth now feeling more like burden than a privilege. The following days bring more bad news. His father's company is in deeper trouble than expected. Jake is told he needs to take on job, anything to prove he can handle the responsibilities of adulthood. The message is clear. There's no safety net anymore. Desperation sets in as Jake frantically applies for jobs, sending resumes to companies he knows nothing about. His self-assurance fades with each rejection email. What once felt like smooth, effortless life now seems like an uphill battle. One morning, Jake's mother calls telling him they've arranged an interview for him at corporate office he's never heard of. Its last-ditch effort to keep him afloat. Jake's frustration grows, but there's no way out. The day of Jake's job interview arrives, and the tension in the air is palpable. Dressed in crisp suit, he stands at the entrance of sleek corporate building, his palms sweating as he looks up at the towering structure. His mind is racing with thoughts of failure. He never imagined his life would come to this. He's used to the world bending to his will, but today, he's just another nervous applicant. Inside the building, Jake takes seat in the waiting area, nervously flipping through business magazine he doesn't care about. He overhears hushed conversations about the company's rapid growth and how impressive their new EO is. He absent-mindedly wonders who it could be. Someone his age, perhaps. When it's finally time for his interview, Jake is led into pristine conference room. His eyes widen as he sees her, Sophie, standing at the head of the table, dressed in sharp suit that mirrors her newfound confidence. Sophie, Jake stammers, unable to hide his surprise. Sophie looks up from her papers, her calm demeanor unchanged. Yes, Jake, she responds, her voice steady. I'm the CEO here now. Jake is stunned. He had no idea Sophie had risen so quickly, let alone to such powerful position. Sophie remains composed, offering him seat. The realization hits Jake hard. The very woman he once dismissed as beneath him is now his superior. The power dynamics have shifted, and Jake can't help but feel the weight of his past arrogance. Jake sits across from Sophie, the reality of the situation sinking in with every passing second. Her composed, almost indifferent expression makes him feel small and insignificant. As she discusses the job role, he can't shake the discomfort of having her in control. Her voice is calm, authoritative, yet there's subtle power in the way she speaks that reminds him of everything he's lost. You'll be starting at the bottom, Sophie explains, looking over his resume with detached air, but it's a good place to learn. Her eyes briefly meet his, and he sees flicker of something. Quiet acknowledgement of their past interactions. Jake's pride stings as he takes in the reality of his new position. Once he was the one who called the shots. Surrounded by privilege and admiration now, Sophie holds his future in her hands. The first few days are excruciating for Jake. He's given menial tasks, filing papers, sorting through emails, work he never imagined doing in his wildest dreams. Sophie doesn't coddle him, and her expectations are clear. He's forced to stay late, handling details that seem beneath him. But as the days drag on, something inside Jake begins to shift. He starts observing his coworkers, noting their hard work, their commitment to the company. Sophie's presence looms large in the office, and Jake begins to see her not as the girl he once dismissed, but as someone with remarkable strength and vision. The days pass, and Jake's transformation is slow but undeniable. Initially, he resents the routine, sorting files, answering calls, and attending meetings that feel beneath his former self. However, as the weeks go by, he begins to notice the pride in his colleagues' work. They may not have his wealth or status, but they are driven, focused, and respectful of the company's mission. Sophie, ever the calm, professional leader, handles challenges with grace, and Jake can't help but admire her determination. One late evening, Jake stays at the office long after everyone else has gone home. He's buried in spreadsheets, making sure everything is in order for an upcoming presentation. Sophie passes by, giving him a brief nod of acknowledgement. She's surprised to see him still working. Looks like you're finally getting the hang of things, though she remarks, faint smile playing at the corner of her lips. Jake doesn't respond right away, but her words stick with him. The smug, entitled version of himself is slowly fading, replaced by someone who understands the value of effort and dedication. His colleagues begin to notice the change too. Jake offers to help others with their tasks, working together to meet deadlines. Slowly, he earns their respect, not as the arrogant rich kid he once was, but as someone willing to learn and contribute. As Jake continues to evolve, Sophie's own journey starts to unfold more clearly. She isn't just the composed EO she appears to be. Beneath her professionalism lies a story of perseverance, sacrifice, and quiet determination. Sophie's rise to the top wasn't easy. She had to fight for every opportunity, often working twice as hard as anyone else to prove her worth. Flashbacks reveal Sophie's past struggles. Growing up in a modest home, dealing with her own setbacks, and watching her family face financial hardships. After high school, she worked multiple jobs to support herself through college, barely scraping by. Sophie always kept low profile, but in every interaction, her intelligence and work ethic stood out. She was never given silver spoon like Jake, and that shaped her resolve. Sophie's breakthrough came when she recognized gap in the market and developed a business plan that eventually attracted investors. With grit and sharp mind, she built her company from the ground up, slowly climbing the corporate ladder, gaining recognition not only for her brilliance, but also for her integrity. Through all of this, Sophie never forgot where she came from. Her quiet compassion for her employees and her refusal to ever take shortcuts were key to her success. Watching Jake struggle with his newfound reality, Sophie sees reflection of her former self, someone who had to learn humility the hard way. The company is in the midst of a critical project, and Jake is finally starting to feel a sense of ownership in the work. As the deadline looms, Sophie calls a team meeting to discuss the final details. Jake, now more engaged and confident, steps up to contribute. For the first time, he has real ideas, offering suggestions that impress his colleagues. Sophie listens intently, acknowledging his input without fanfare. There's no room for arrogance here, only collaboration. As the meeting concludes, Jake stays behind to ask Sophie a few questions about the strategy. Sophie, noticing the sincerity in his approach, offers him advice. She explains how perseverance, adaptability, and integrity were key to her success, sharing glimpses of the struggles that shaped her. Jake listens, truly absorbing her words, recognizing the depth of her leadership. Later, in quiet moment, Jake reflects on his journey. He remembers the arrogant, entitled version of himself, the person who would have never dreamed of working for someone like Sophie. Now he understands the value of humility, hard work, and vision. And final twist, Sophie offers Jake promotion not as reward for his status, but because she believes in his potential. It's a moment of full circle growth. Jake is no longer the arrogant rich kid. He's someone who earned his place. What happens when the arrogant rich boy next door is forced to work under the woman he once dismissed as ordinary? Sophie, once the quiet neighbor ignored by Jake, has transformed into a powerful EO, while Jake's world crumbles around him. As he's pushed to start over at the bottom of the corporate ladder, he quickly realizes that everything he took for granted, his wealth, his status, his comfort, was never the true key to success. Now, with Sophie as his boss, Jake must confront his own arrogance and learn the value of hard work, humility, and resilience. But as the tables turn, will he be able to rise to the challenge, or will Sophie's quiet strength show him the price of underestimating others?